Take a look at this region in modern-day Iraq. It is Karbala, where the grandchild of Prophet Muhammad, Hussein, was killed in a battle after his father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, was overthrown in a bloody military coup d'etat. To fully understand why this happened, let's take a look back in history. When Prophet Muhammad passed away at the age of 63 in 632 CE, without specifying who should succeed him, many people thought his cousin and son-in-law, Ali ibn Abi Talib, should succeed him as he was his closest male relative. Nevertheless, the mantle of leadership skipped Ali and passed to Abu Bakr. Before his death in 634, Abu Bakr designated Umar as his successor or Caliph. The role of the Caliph is equivalent to that of a president. Uthman succeeded Umar after the former got assassinated. During this time, Islam has spread far beyond Mecca and Medina, as the new Islamic State now controls Egypt, Syria, Palestine, Jordan, and Iraq, which were formerly ruled by either the Byzantine or the Sasanian empires. The state was divided into provinces, and governors were elected to administer each region. For instance, Amr ibn al-As served as governor of Egypt, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan served as governor of Syria, Abdullah ibn Amir served as governor of Mecca. Trouble began for Uthman when he dismissed Amr ibn al-As from his position. Amr was accused of being corrupt. Rebellion then started brewing from Egypt, Medina, and Iraq against Uthman. Those in Iraq want to depose Uthman and appoint Ali. The rebels in Egypt accused the Caliph of appointing his relatives into key governmental posts. Uthman was later besieged in his home by the rebels, and he was eventually assassinated in 656. The rebels and the townspeople of Medina then declared Ali, a cousin and son-in-law of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, Caliph, or president of the Islamic State. Most of the Quraysh, the grouping of Meccan clans to which Muhammad and all the early caliphs belonged, refused to recognize Ali. They demanded that Ali punish those responsible for the assassination of Uthman. Ali played no role in the deadly attack, and his son Hassan was injured while guarding Uthman's besieged residence at the request of Ali. But his nomination by the rebels left Ali exposed to accusations of complicity in Uthman's assassination. They also called for the removal of Ali from office and for a council to appoint a new caliph. This removal of Ali was likely their primary goal, rather than vengeance for Uthman. They called for revenge against Uthman's killers before electing a new caliph. Relatives of Uthman then fled Medina, the caliphate capital, and gathered in Mecca, though some made their way to Syria. Mecca was thus in open rebellion against Ali. The caliphate of Ali perhaps frustrated the political ambitions of Mecca elites, especially the Quraysh. For these, Ali represented the lower classes of the society. Fearing that he would end their privileged status as the ruling class of Islam, the Quraysh thus challenged Ali to safeguard their entitlements. Iraq was later seized by rebels in Mecca who didn't want Ali as the caliph. The two parties fought the Battle of the Camel in December 656, from which Ali emerged victorious. He then moved the seat of government from Medina to Kufa, a garrison town in Iraq. Afterward, Ali decided to depose the provincial governors appointed by Uthman and appoint new governors in their stead. He removed Muawiyah from his post. Having ruled Syria for almost 20 years without interruption, and almost since its conquest, Muawiyah had a power base in Syria which made his removal difficult. Ali replaced Muawiyah with Ibn Abbas, who feared the retaliation of Muawiyah, and asked Ali to postpone his appointment until his rule was firmly established. Muawiyah soon launched a propaganda campaign across Syria, charging Ali in the death of Uthman and calling for revenge, and also declared himself the caliph or president of the Islamic State. Ali gathered support in Kufa, where he had established his center, and invaded Syria. The two armies met along the Euphrates River at Siffin, near the modern-day Syrian-Iraqi border. Then, something surprising happened. Muawiyah's soldiers came out holding copies of the Quran on their spears. This was meant to show that they wanted God's words to help solve their fight. Seeing this, Ali agreed to let a wise judge decide what to do based on the Quran. He chose a man named Abu Musa al-Ash'ari to represent him, while Muawiyah picked Amr ibn al-As as his representative. By agreeing to let someone judge the situation, Ali allowed Muawiyah to be seen as his equal, which made it possible for Muawiyah to question Ali's position as the leader of the Muslim community. This decision made many of Ali's followers very angry. They believed that only God should decide what was right and wrong according to their interpretation of the Quran. They also thought that agreeing to arbitration went against the teaching that says to fight against those who rebel. Because of this disagreement, a small group of these followers left Ali's camp and they became known as the Kharijites, or seceders. When these former supporters rose in rebellion against Ali, Muawiyah took advantage of Ali's difficulties in Iraq to send a force to seize control of Egypt. In January 661, Ali was killed by a Kharijite named Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam. His oldest son, Hassan, became the new caliph in Kufa, the city where Ali had ruled. However, Muawiyah refused to recognize Hassan as caliph and invaded Iraq. Hassan tried to fight back by sending some troops to confront Muawiyah and then leading a larger army himself. But he didn't have much money and he wasn't a warlike person, so many of his soldiers left him. Even though many of his supporters were upset, Hassan chose to seek peace. In 661, he surrendered his claim to the caliphate in a treaty. The terms of the treaty stipulated that Muawiyah would not nominate a successor. Although the treaty brought a temporary peace, no framework of succession was established. After that, Hassan was given a comfortable allowance and permitted to live quietly in Medina. He later died in 670. Many early sources say his death was the result of poisoning by one of his wives. Muawiyah then made Damascus the seat of government. Prior to his death, Muawiyah appointed his son Yazid as his successor, contrary to the Hassan-Muawiyah treaty. This move was scandalous to Muslims, as hereditary succession had no precedent in Islamic history. Earlier caliphs had been elected either by popular support in Medina or by the consultation of the senior companions of Muhammad, and according to Islamic principles, the position of ruler was not the private property of a ruler to award to his descendants. When Muawiyah died in 680, Yazid demanded that Hussein pledge allegiance to him. Hussein refused to do so. As a consequence, he left Medina, his hometown, to take refuge in Mecca in 679 CE. There, the people of Kufa sent letters to him, invited him to Kufa, and asked him to be their caliph and pledge their allegiance to him. Yazid predicted this and sent a huge army to block Hussein from reaching Kufa and forced them to the desert town of Karbala, north of Kufa. Once they reached Karbala, Hussein and his companions were surrounded by Yazid's forces of up to 30,000 men. Despite having only 72 fighters with him, he decided to fight, hoping for the promised support from Kufa. Sadly, he and nearly all of his family and followers were killed in the battle. In remembrance of the martyrdom of Hussein, Shia Muslims observe the first 10 days of Muharram, the date of the battle according to the Islamic calendar, as days of lamentation. Revenge for Hussein's death was turned into a rallying cry that helped undermine the Umayyad Caliphate and gave impetus to the rise of a powerful Shia movement. The details of Hussein's life are obscured by the legends that grew up surrounding his martyrdom, but his final acts appear to have been inspired by a definite ideology, to found a regime that would reinstate a true Islamic polity as opposed to what he considered the unjust rule of the Umayyads. The Islamic Empire reached its largest geographical extent under the Umayyads. The Umayyads drove on the early Muslim conquests, conquering the Maghreb, Hispania, Central Asia, Sind, and parts of Chinese Turkestan, but the constant warfare exhausted the state's military resources, while Alid and Kharijite revolts and tribal rivalries weakened the state from within. Finally, in 750, the Abbasids overthrew Caliph Marwan II and massacred most of the family. One of the survivors, Abd al-Rahman, escaped to Muslim Spain, where he founded the Emirate of Cordoba, which his descendant, Abd al-Rahman III, transformed into a caliphate in 929. Under the Umayyads, Al-Andalus became a center of science, medicine, philosophy, and invention during the Islamic Golden Age. The Caliphate of Cordoba disintegrated into several independent kingdoms in 1031, thus marking the political end of the Umayyad dynasty.